Hi guys, it's Kimberly with Gentle Breeze. Thank you for coming by today. We are going to, believe it or not, work on the 1930s, 40s, 50s journal project using predominantly original ephemera. And it's going to be like a lady's book that sits by the telephone and she stuffs things in, and it's made up of scraps and pictures from magazines and receipts and what's happening in the day, that kind of thing. Well, I've given a lot of thought to this since we last met. I did a lot of looking around and really thought about it a lot, and I've changed my plan a little bit in that I happen to have 3 books that are suited to each decade so beautifully that I've decided that I'm going to do a book per decade. So I'll show them to you right now. So this will obviously be 50s. This is 40s. I don't know if you can see that, but it's got the date 1946 on there. And up until a couple of minutes ago, this was black. It was all that, well, darker even. It was super dark everywhere on the front and back. And I took one of those disinfectant towels that come in the tall containers that you just take out and use. I use that a lot around here in my studio. So I used it on the book. I mean, it couldn't be worse. And it came out like this. It says diary. It says desk diary. You can see it there. It's more obvious in person. And it used to be a recipe book for institutional cooking, so like schools and hospitals and prisons, that kind of thing. And so I felt like a lot of the grime on it was literally grime from grease. And I just couldn't bring myself to use it. I've had it quite a while. Took out the pages a long time ago. I've used those. They're fine, but the cover and the back, ugh. And so what's left, I think, is food, actually. And it grosses me out a little bit, but I think it's very realistic. Very realistic. So those are those eras, and then this is going to be the 1930s. Well, I'm going to have to do one for the 20s, I think. I keep talking about it so much. I don't know what that is. This is, it was called the Source Book, so it's kind of like an encyclopedia book. And it looks like the 20s. I couldn't get an exact date, but it's 20s or 30s or teens. No, I think it was the teens. But it's very much embossed and beautiful, and I'm happy to have a use for it. And I think that it will serve this purpose well. And they're all pretty good size, not huge, not tiny, and that makes me happy as well. So if you're following along, go through your books and pull out books that look used and damaged and darker for the earlier, and then the 50s one I'm sure came with a soft cover, but I never had that. I bought it just like it was. So this is what we're going to do then. We're going to start with the 1930s decade. And today I thought it would be fun if we aged the digitals that I'm planning to use for some of the pages for this decade. I'm really going to stick with scrapping up, pasting things down, and having collages on the pages. Sometimes a lot of the page will show, and the collage will be more in the middle. Other times the whole page will have a collage. Just feel like the materials I have will lend themselves to that. Before we get into the aging, I'll show you what I've done to prep a little further in hopes that you will be following along. First of all, I made a list. It took a few days. When I got an idea, I jotted it down. But I made a list of other things that I didn't already have that I won't be putting in the box for this decade. You can read it. You can take a screenshot. I think you can make out my handwriting just fine. But these are to help me, go to the different parts of my studio where I have these things so that I don't forget and just rely on the things I've set aside. And, you know, it might be, I just use a few per decade, but I think they'll be fun. And in part, I got some of these ideas from looking at other samples, and I'm happy to have that list. It'll help me think about it. So then I went through everything for the 1930s, and I separated everything by type, mostly by type. This was my miscellaneous bag. So lots of different things are in here, many of which you've seen. And I want to make sure that I use up a lot of this. Stamps are in here. You know, some things I wouldn't even know what they were in their day, but I got them and they fit, so I'm using them. The mailing labels. Remember when people used to do crochet around pennies? So you'll see more as we go along in that. Then this is the book of receipts that are this size small, and this is the biggest. Various colors, various companies. I separated it out so I wouldn't have too much of one, since I have so many of each. It was all envelopes, and that took up a lot. Envelopes and some text from newspapers. I'm going to use these as pockets. I'm going to put stuff in some. I'm going to background with the others. But I love them all. They all have the right dates to fit in this decade. These are some receipts that got ripped up and some bank envelopes that I ripped up. I figure they can fill in. This is larger miscellanea. This is a primarily sewing, primarily heat transfer, embroidery, instructions, stamps, that kind of thing. This is a piece of wallpaper that I fussy cut on top of a cool transfer sheet, and I want to use it all. I want to use it all. And my thought is like this transfer sheet will be a page. So the pages are not all going to be the digital wallpaper or even the scrapbook paper that I showed you at the beginning. I'm just going to make the pages out of whatever is big enough to be a page, and maybe I won't decorate them at all. I want it to really feel scrappy. And I love this, even though this is a replica. Came out of a handmade block printing wallpaper company, very small, in Massachusetts that I visited. And so it's really supposed to be from the early 1800s. But it's so pretty, and I love it, and it has kind of a 30s feel, and certainly the colors fit for that with the pink and all. So the rest of this is just a lot of sewing and embroidery stuff. So that'll be a large part of this decade, which I really love that. This gets into the different photos. I have tin types, I have digitals, I have real photos, I have Tim Holtz photos. I'll be cutting a lot of these out. What I want to do is, vary in the way that they look. Like maybe some I'll distress, maybe some I'll cut unusual edges, maybe some I'll frame, maybe some I'll rip in half or use the sanding block on. But I'd really like to play with the black and white photos I have for this. This is all the digital textiles. This is batting and lace and the textiles that I showed you in the last video. So I have a playlist now, and you can go back and look at anything to get ideas. And partly I felt that this was important because this area that I have to work in here is really not that big. It's, got stuff around the back and around the side, and then there's a sink over on this side, and then there's a place where I store stuff on the other side. So it's not like I can spread everything out and see it at one time. So I think a lot of you might have the same circumstances going on. So I thought if I put them in a bag, I can pour them out at one time when I'm looking for a certain size or whatever, and then put it back in the bag, and that way I just won't be. Plus, this place where I film is the same place where I craft, so I do need to clean it up in between sometimes, not always. I'll continue to work on it sometimes, but other times I've got to work on something else or do a different type of video. So all of this took time for me to think about. This is a major undertaking, but it's feeling much more manageable now, and I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be really exciting. So let's get to the aging. So this wallpaper, I'm going to put in the description box which kit this is. I've got it written down on the other side of the room, so I will write in the description box. But they're all from Everlasting Journals on Etsy, and I picked them out for their 30s appeal. And they all look so, I'll go through each one. They all look so pristine and so pretty, like they just put it up on the wall. This is a beautiful sage green. I hope it shows up that way for you. These backgrounds are just so gorgeous. I'm not sure I'm going to age this one. I might just leave it as is because I love that sagey color. This is really a pretty color, but it's just too pristine. This one has some aging going on. It's whiter here and whiter there and yellower here and yellower there. So it could be left. But a certain amount of aging has to happen, but the bigger amount maybe not so much. And then this is more like the end of the decade, into the 40s, when they had these large floral bouquets, and it's got more of a beige look than a yellow look. So all of them are beautiful, and they all came, I think, in one kit. And Christy is who Everlasting Journals is designed by. She is in Netherlands, and she asked me to collaborate with her. So I really want you to appreciate the digital she has to offer. These are so unique. I've never seen 30s wallpaper. Somebody else might not consider this wallpaper. They might just think it's, pretty paper. But it very much looks like a bordered wallpaper to me, so that's why I'm calling it that. But you don't look at it and have that vintage look of a thick paper. This looks like a very smooth paper, and I personally prefer that kind of wallpaper. So what we're going to do, though, for the ones that I do want to distress, and I thought I would start with this one. And this one reminds me of the early 30s because of all the black. The 20s loved using black, and the teens as well. So I'm going to make this like one of my first wallpapers. And it went from this to this. So I want this book to be grungy, right? It's been a year sitting on her desk. Her hands are dirty when she touches it. There's food on it and all that. So this is just too darn pretty. And I may end up ripping them apart and gluing them down. I might not use the whole side. I might use half. I don't know. But I'm going to fix up some of them, not all, but most, and just have them ready so I don't have to stop and do this. So the first thing that I am going to do is protect my desktop. This is some shipping paper from Amazon, most likely. And I have a spray bottle of my morning coffee. I make a darker coffee now. I've been using Dunkin' Donuts, and before I was using a really light coffee. Now I'm using a darker because I want to drink fewer cups, but get the zing. And I wanted a flavor change. I didn't realize how boring my coffee was till I did this. So that's what I'm squirting on. So here we go. This is 32-pound parchment paper, and it will curl. So I'm squirting the back as well. I also thought about printing on the back, and I decided no, if the back shows, I will distress it, and I'm also going to cover a lot of them. So I didn't print the back. I want to keep myself from falling into the habit of doing things like I normally do with digitals, which is use front and back and keep them square and all of that. That's how I've been doing it for years, and I've got to break that habit. So a lot of you don't have that habit, and you've already overcome. Not me. So now I believe on this one, you can see where the brown spots are, right? Some sort of maintain the brown look, and some others kind of ran, which I wanted. So I think I used this, yeah, Vintage Photo Distress Oxide. On this one, just to see the difference, I'm going to use the Vintage Photo Spray Stain. As I'm sure you all know, the oxide is water. It mixes with water, so after I put those drops onto this one, I then squirted more water so that I would get that running. Alright, I'm squirting while this is wet. I've also waited for them to dry and squirted in the past, but I'm really into experimenting, so I'm not using the sprayers on these, not because they're jammed, but because I want a different look. At first glance, this looks to be quite a bit darker than the Vintage Oxide version. Okay, so because it's wet, it's starting to get that spread anyway. So I don't think it's too different than the oxide. Okay, and I may not have to squirt water on them to do anything because they all seem to be spreading. But let's squirt some anyway. Or, no, more coffee. Yeah, let's just squirt and see what happens. Oh, it didn't change it a bit. Not one little bit. It's exactly the same. Oh, interesting. Okay, so that's good because now it'll dry faster. And both of them go through on both sides. Oh, this is quite a bit lighter. So the oxide is much, much lighter. So just to be clear, this light one, is Distress Oxide. Oh, that's not it. Oops. Let's see. Distress Oxide Vintage Photo is this light one. And this darker one, of course, once we dry it, it might get lighter, but is Distress Spray Stain Vintage Photo. So same color, completely different. All right, so let's dry this. I will turn the sound down while I do this. Okay, so it's going to take longer than I thought to dry it. This paper is pretty. It doesn't dry fast, so I'll decorate another one as this one dries. It does look like they're getting a little bit lighter, I'd say, just a little bit lighter, and pretty, very pretty. I'm feeling like this is kind of a blank. I feel like I want to drop a little more right down there. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry and let's do another one. Okay, I'm going to do this one and this one. Alright, so coffee. this is just my morning brew. There's nothing instant or extra anything. It's just my leftovers. So, you know, if you like it a lot darker, obviously, you would add instant coffee. You might use less water and make coffee. However, whatever you're going for. Okay, then let's do on this one. Actually, I'm going to save the walnut stain for this one because it's already darker. And I'm going to use the oxide again on this one. So this one I got wetter than the other one, and I'm doing it sooner so that it's going to be wetter to start with. So let's see what happens. Okay. There we go. Okay. All right, so you can see that they are a very different dry. They spread out and they get much lighter and they change color. I think it looks real. I think it looks like, you know, age, grime. This looks darker than that. Okay, now let's do a little bit of dry here. Okay, I am going to do another squirt right here because I want to see what happens. And I can only learn by doing it. So let's see. Last time on the other one it did change, but I squirted soon after I had done it. Oh, there we go. There's a little bit of movement. Maybe I'm kidding myself. Maybe that's just the water moving around. It's interesting to me how light they get. I did a bunch of pages, tags, with this, and they turned purple on the tags. I have no idea why, but literally I have purple all over. It's going to be in another journal. The one that I've been working on, if you follow me on Instagram, that's very, very grungy, and it's a composition book, a half-size composition book, and I have lots of cool pictures. It's monochromatic neutrals. That's what those tags are, and so when I show that flip through, I will point it out, and maybe somebody understands how that happened. I'm actually doing it as a guest video on another person's channel, and it's going to happen in September, so I will let you know more about that when it happens. But I'm super excited, and I also really want to show you this particular journal. Okay, let's just try to get this pool of water off here. I didn't turn that off for you. Sorry. Okay. So this one is starting to dry, and it's got that unevenness, which I really like. It's not flat. That's what I want. I want them to be kind of sticking out. So now I'm going to do the Distress Oxide around the edges, and on this other one I also did the Scorched Timber on a few of the sides. I don't know if I want all of them to have quite that much distress, but maybe. So let me start. Let me move this away first. And we will do that one more wallpaper that looks like the 40s. Okay, so I'm using Gathered Twigs Distress Oxide, and I'm being pretty heavy-handed because I just think it fits my goal, and I'm being erratic because I want it to look like it's built up over time. Whoops. See, this just looks all too fresh. Too fresh. Okay. I am going to do some Scorched Timber, but before I bring that one out, I'm going to do the back. If I end up collaging in there, I may go to the very end of the page, but in case I don't, I wanted to have, didn't want to have the white showing. Oops. So, how are you guys doing? School has started back here for the young ones. Hard to believe. The freeways are empty, the streets are empty, the stores are empty. I can get so much done in such a faster amount of time. It's truly heaven. And it's been super hot, so that's not so good. But it is hard to believe it's fall. Good thing for fall for me is football. I love NFL. Rams is my team. I also like the 49ers, and I am super excited to get into it this year. Super excited. Love to know what you guys' hobbies are, sports-wise. It's the only sport I watch, but I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed the Olympics this year. Like, really loved watching the Olympics that I watched. I didn't watch everything. I work, for one thing, but I watch the highlights usually at night, and so that sort of gave me what I watched. And I watched more the first week than the second of highlights, but it was so exhilarating watching everybody cheer everybody on and be so happy for each other, and oh gosh, it was really great attitudes. And in Paris, oh man, I love their opening and their closing. I watched the closing 3 times. I could not believe when the man was brought up from the ground playing the piano and then hung in the air playing the piano, which was also hanging in the air. It wasn't horizontal, it was vertical, the piano and the man. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Absolutely could not believe my eyes. Okay, I think that looks good. What do you think? You'd never know it was that pristine new piece, that's for sure. And it feels heavier, it's got a feel to it I really like. So let's do this one more. Okay, so this one I'm going to have to trim. Okay, I need to get my paper. Whoops, 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 whoops. There we go. Okay. I'm really not trying to cover the whole thing. I'm really trying to, just, maybe have parts of it browner than others. But this coffee is still pretty weak, I guess, because they don't come out looking all that spotted. But I also like the effect that one gets from putting plain water on just to get that crinkly effect. So I'm good. I don't mind if it doesn't, if a bunch of heavy coffee doesn't come out, that's okay with me and my plan. All right, let's see. Oh, I was going to put the walnut oxide on there. Okay, so distress oxide walnut. Oh. Okay. I'm going to get this wet in the middle again. Okay. All right. Oh, that's pretty dark already. Okay. Okay. Some big blobs came out for this one, didn't they? Those are pretty big. These are so sloppy. I don't know why. They're really sloppy. Okay, so see how it gets like a silver. So now let me put more coffee on and see if that shifts. Okay, so that runs. These are kind of, yeah, these are changing significantly. Yeah. Just for a change, just to have it look different. It's not necessarily better or worse, it's just different. Yeah, these all, like none of these are solid brown dots anymore. They're all a ring of brown and sort of a silvery inside. Look at those right there. So that's fascinating. No brown dots. Wow. Wow. I do want some brown dots. I'm going to put on some more of the stain. Okay. I'm thinking I might age some of the original receipts and stuff, magazine pages, whatnot, that go in there as well, just to kind of, I don't know, keep the feeling going. And it's kind of fun, and it uses my products, which, that's my timer. Okay. I'm going to put it on for a minute. Okay. How can I change the time? Okay, cancel. Alright. Okay, we're going to go just a few more minutes and then I'm going to stop. Okay. Alright. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so we get like a mixture. We get the walnut stain oxide. I bet that's the one that turned purple on those tags because it's acting so differently from the distress stain. Look, it almost looks like mica. See all these? There's no brown in it at all. That is so unusual, I think. That's okay. It's just a different experience this paper had in her life. Okay, that got the pools off. So let's see. about giving this some edging. Okay. I can see how this might rip if I go too rough with it. Might be better to wait till it's drier. Yeah, I think I want to wait till it's drier because I'm pretty heavy-handed with these, and I like it. I like the look it gives, so I don't want to risk it. So I'll show it to you next time. All right, so here's what we have. So we have this. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, those are the wreaths. Yeah. Okay. And then this one that you saw at the beginning. And then this one that we did together. Looks so good. And then this one that's totally wet that we have a lot more to do on. All right. So I do really hope that some of you are going to follow along and tell us how you're doing and show pictures maybe on Instagram and come up with ideas you can share, that kind of thing. But we'll go from here. I'll start to make signatures, maybe before the next film or maybe during it with you. But I do intend to move forward, and because now I have a direction, I know what I'm doing, and we will be able to stay in some kind of sync. I don't really have a sense of how many a week I'm going to get out there. I think it'll vary because my work varies, my schedule varies, and so you can still watch them in the playlist whenever it's convenient for you. It doesn't really matter when it comes out. So thanks again, you guys. I really appreciate all the subscribers I've been getting so much, and I'm also super appreciative of those of you that continue to watch and continue to comment. It's really great. Have a great week. I'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.